in your opinion, why many people still don't accept or believe that climate change is real?
Yeah,
that's a massive question.
Yes.
Why it's
yes. I think because we didn't. We still consume on the same ways we used to consume for a long time. We consume for status, our choice of consuming. We consume by the trend. We consume by the price.
Mm-hmm.
We search for many parts of the products and services that we live day by day, but we don't pay attention to the line of the production. We don't watch behind where those services and products comes from. We don't pay attention. We pay attention for other meanings of products and services. So it's like for us responsibility. This is it.
And do you consider your work as a political act? And do you think that cinema has the responsibility, of course, to warn people about social or political or cultural issues?
Everything in some capacity in life is a political act. The socks we wear are political. Where the cotton comes from, who organized the trade, this is all political. So I think by very nature, the word political it's like a powder keg, it's like a bomb, you know? You can think of it in many different ways. I think by creating an offering, cinema is an offering, cinema is a language, to reach out, to transport, to take the viewer somewhere they have not been before. Just like any great art or any great book is. Cinema's power is its immediacy. You can tell more in 5 minutes than you can in 600 pages, let's say, right? So ultimately I feel the problem we're facing now as a civilization is that ideology is the biggest narcotic, and greed is what has enabled our climate crisis now for denial, because denial is the road to death. If we do not come together as a civilization to force institutions and governments to change the policy meaningfully, we are doomed in the next 80 years maximum.
And it's true also that it's political by the subject, but it's political by the form also. That we are doing films, we are not doing a series, we are not working with a platform like, you know, all what we know. It's also a choice. It's also a way to tell things. I think by form also in cinema. Which way to do things. You know, I don't say all the films, but I think discussing with Adelina, there is something very free in doing these films. This freedom that Adelina gave us to do this film. This is really unique today, because when you want to do film, you have a lot of institution, financement, discussion for 2-3 years to convince person. And this way to do film with Adelina is a form of resistance. It's political form. It's another way. It's for me the right way to do things, the right way to create. She protects us doing this.
She protects us because, for sure, we are real activists. We are political activists. We are nature activists. We are environmental activists through this media that is cinema. So yes, it's a political issue.
And do you have a hope for the future? I think about the youngest generation. I think that they are more aware of the world they live in.
I mean, I'd say that, yeah. The new generation is more aware, but it's not mature about that. It's coming with, you know, the rebelled way of being young to change the world, to change the system. And I really think we are living. It's not about generations, it's about our generation, our last 50 years generation. We are living in a moment of the line of the civilization that the planet has chance to be dead for many times. The asteroid that we had, the glacier era, the plagues, the world wars, the atomic that we have faced, the COVID we had now. So we are living our generation. We are living from the post-industrialization, 200 years of industrialization, a dying planet. That's why we're talking now about that. But our generation, we are changing the mindset of us, of ourselves. The mindset has changed. Mm-hmm. It's the whole generation. Mm-hmm. Because UN talks about preservation since the 50s. We had the hippie movement in the 60s. And then we began to learn, understand nature, to love nature, to have the rights to defend us from the big companies, things like that. But sustainable development was just in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro, the UN conference. It was the first time we could face something that was not only preservation versus economic development, because it doesn't fit. But from there, in the 90s, the end of the past century into the new millennium, we had the agenda for the 21st century that teaches us how to change. Mm-hmm. And our generation, yes, we are changing. I'm very optimistic. This is the word I'd like to bring.
In one of the short movie, I heard this sentence: "Man isn't more important than other things." Do you think that we should be less self-centered and more empathic to the others, also to animals? I think about the way we used to eat. There are a lot of people that still eat meat. We should be more empathic to save the world.
But yet, the most strange thing that we were empathic before. Even in the religion, there is all time words about to be in contact with nature, with animals, etc. And something happened, and we are totally in some feeling of power. We are power than the nature. We are power. We are the most important in the world, and we have to learn now how to live with all form of living. Earth around it.
We have the access we've never had before as a civilization because of digitization. But digitization creates distance. In the analog era, industrialization analog, there was more of a human touch. Now we can be anywhere we want in the world without leaving our houses. Mm-hmm. Now drone warfare is taking place. Now mass industrialization, mass slaughter, on every level, not just the animals. But I think we need to learn to first not think of the world and the animal kingdom as real estate to be conquered, but as a home that we belong to. Mm-hmm. This is where I think all nations have failed, to teach empathy from the grade school for not just the animal kingdom, but for Mother Nature, because there is no going back. We are at the point of no return as a civilization. To agree with Oskar's optimism, there is more power and more potential to create real meaningful change, that from the grassroots level to the global policy. And film can bridge the gaps that policymakers or institutions do not see, because they are trained to think of things as borders and real estate. And we are trained to think of the world as our oyster, as our home, not countries that we belong to. We are truly beyond borders. I believe this.
No, I believe we don't have any more geopolitical nations. We have lifestyle nations, empathy nations, exchanging culture on another level, a level as living on a planet. And I really think cinema, maybe our film, I would say, I think we share our empathy as directors and creators to the nature. We are sharing with the others to understand, to get into this empathy to nature, to the animals, to the nature. Then we will be, as human beings, observing more and more how nature does to live in balance and learn about it. Mm-hmm. It's not only empathy and love. This will connect us too, but we will be observing it, not observing only what by the digital, what comes for us. Mm-hmm. It's time to to have our hands into the earth, touching nature. It's spiritual, imaginarily, scientifically and philosophically to this new millennium.
In your opinion, why do many people still don't accept climate change? And do you think that we all have a part in this process? Do you think that we all have to do our part to prevent and to fight climate change?
So I'll start with the first part of the question. It's climate change is science. So, and it's an uncomfortable science. So obviously if you get sick and you have cancer, that's really uncomfortable, but you're going to listen to the science. Climate change is an uncomfortable science that people don't want to listen to. So it's really, I think the biggest problem is picking and choosing your science, and that's something that we can't do anymore.
Do you consider your work as a political act?
Every action is a political action at the end. It's not like we are part of a government and we have the possibility of taking decisions, but we are, as taking actions, we are improving conversations, improving discussions, improving and putting the topics, important topics on the table. So if we don't believe our actions are political, we are not doing an action at the end.
And do you think that cinema is the best language to raise people awareness around social or cultural issues, of course?
Of course, we believe that we dedicate our lives and work to cinema because we believe it's a powerful media to communicate with people. It's a massive way of talking to a lot of people everywhere. And we do believe that in just a few minutes making cinema, you can connect with these people through experience, through feelings, through thoughts. So we do believe it's a strong way of communication.
And in one of the short movies, I heard this sentence: "Man isn't more important than other things." Do you think that we should hold less self-centered and more empathic and respectful with the world around us?
Yeah, absolutely. It's in my film, so it's fundamental. It's really deciding that perhaps that. It's about perspective. It's about deciding where and what our perspective is compared to the rest of the planet. Are we on the top of the pyramid, or are we part of something bigger inside a circle and connected and interconnected to all sorts of different beings and creatures and bioflora and biospheres? So it's really that. It's just simply if our species could change its perspective and start thinking about itself as part of a circle and not on the top of a pyramid, it would already change everything.
And it's very important also this question that's the reason of politics and art, to put us in a position that we don't really feel comfortable, but we can start thinking about it. It's not the opposite, like, oh, they're building us these crazy stories about the humankind living in another planet. That's not poetic at the end. That's just an illusion. It's not an art movement or an artistic position, and of course it's not a political act. It's just inventing things.
Do you have hope for the future? Do you think that the youngest generation are more aware of the world they live in?
They are more aware, and they are starting to fight and to commit to this change that we need. But the thing is that maybe they won't have enough time, or maybe we are already too late. We will see, of course, what will happen. I don't want to be a pessimist, but it's difficult not to be pessimist when you are seeing how fast are we destroying our planet, and how difficult it is for the planet to recover. There are some point where we already crossed the line, probably.
We have to be hopeful because, we are both an invasive species, but we're also a race of dreamers. And so we can choose, and we can still choose, what side to be on.
And how did you develop your two short movies? Which were the first idea that you developed, and then we see in this beautiful documentary?
Well, for us, or maybe at least one of the things, because when you do a film, it's many things that connect you. You never know when you started the film. The interactions asked us 8 or 9 months ago, but somehow we have this film in our minds for many years. But one very beautiful thing that we found in our film, the main animal character is a manatee. And we shot in a place where it's called the sanctuary of manatees. And the biologists there told us that there were only 200 manatees in this sanctuary. But for them, that was a stable family of manatees. And for us, was like just 200. That's so fragile. That's nothing. But for nature, that's so stable. So in terms of humans, we cannot measure those things. You know, the times of nature are, and if that was one of the points that started us to write this story.
And for you?
Well, definitely talking and giving a voice to nature's fragility, and especially, I think all the directors in this film are giving a voice to these species, you know, who are around us and that we need to protect and who don't have a voice in our world. So I think all of us, in a different ways, have really tried to give a voice to different places on the planet to recount, you know, obviously the interaction, but also the interconnection, and more than anything, that it's all the same story, one story.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.